Yo! In this video, I'll be talking about the mid/late game macro for support. This is the follow-up video to my early game support macro guide, so if you haven't checked that out already, the link will pop up at this part. Jumping in, I know that most support players have a general idea of how to play the mid/late game, but I'll be breaking it down so it's easier to understand. I made this chart that has all the main ideas of what you should be thinking about. Basically, two things you need to focus on is playing around your most fed player or players and setting up objectives. You can achieve this by providing and denying vision, but you have to factor in wave state and where the enemy and your team is. I will further explain each side so it makes more sense, starting with the left side. In every game, you'll have a player on your team that is the strongest. Frequently check your scoreboard to see who that is. Every game is going to be different. Sometimes you'll have multiple people to play around, and other times you might just have one. The more aware you are about the game state, the less you'll autopilot. Speaking of autopiloting, a lot of supports tend to default sit with their ADC once the first tower falls, which sometimes it makes sense to do if you win lane, but this is not always correct. Abandon the idea that you need to babysit your AD carry all game. ADCs need handholding in the early game/laning phase, but once that's over, you can help whoever on your team. So how do we play around the most fed player? The middle part of the graph is how we do this. We want to provide or deny vision for them while considering the wave state and the enemy/ally position. Essentially, you want to set up whichever lane or jungle they're in to give them a lot of room to spread their lead. Wards should be placed relative to the wave state of the strongest player so that it allows them to see which enemies are rotating to them so they can play aggressively. Once you have wards down, you'll want to hover them out of vision and set up for a play, or sometimes you might just have to not take a fight if you are outnumbered. This example will show how to identify and play around your strongest player. As I'm coming out of base, I'm looking at my scoreboard to see who is strong. I see that Jax and Sylas are super fed, and I'm planning on warding and hovering the red side jungle to set up for both of them. If you look at the wave state bot, Jax is going to be in a very unsafe spot, so I want to try and ward deep in their jungle to give lots of vision. Warding that deep is pretty dangerous, so you have to do this in a way where you won't get caught. The way I approach this is using the vision cone to clear out enemy vision at the entrance of the jungle. I want to make it so that I'm not seen entering. I see all of the enemy team on my map. Wukong and Senna are top, Nautilus and Akali are mid, and Fiora is bot. Using this information, I know I have a timing to walk into the enemy jungle to ward and not get ambushed. The wards I'm placing are very deep, and because of that, we can catch out Nautilus trying to rotate. Because I am setting up for Jax, our most fed player, we are enabling him to split aggressively and taking fights with him. We don't get the kill here, but if we fast forward about 40 seconds, I'm still hovering him and my team counter ganks a 3-person gank and we pick up a kill. Now that you know how to set up for your most fed player, you're going to do this while factoring in objectives. I have objectives broken down into two sections. The first sections cover dragons, heralds, and barons, and the other part is sieging/defending towers. When a dragon, herald, or baron is coming up, you have to decide if your team can take it or if you're going to give it up. If you're going to attempt to take the objective, you'll want about a minute to a minute 30 to provide/deny vision. How you do this will depend on the wave state and your enemy/ally position, hence the middle part of the graph. If your team has the forward position or if they can control the area around the objective, it's pretty easy to set up or take. You should ward around the objective and try to look for picks if you haven't started it already. In this clip, we're taking Dragon and Kindred tries to peek into the river, but because of all the wards I've placed and denied in their jungle, it was an easy pick. If your team is taking the objective, you should either look for an angle to engage or look to deny the enemy jungler from entering the pit. Make sure to always ward whichever side the enemy team is on to give your team more vision to work with. In this clip, Jarvan comes after Baron is slain, but I was looking to deny him from entering the pit. On a side note, if you are engaging, make sure to engage in a way where your team can follow up. Another important concept in the mid/late game is when you get a pick and you want to go for an objective. Force the enemy team to take a fight if they contest it. You don't want to have the junglers take a 50-50 smite battle. If you don't know what that term means, it's basically the idea that either jungler has an even chance of smiting the objective. Despite the numbers advantage in a 4v5, it's even because you only need to last hit, or last smite in this case, the objective. To avoid that, we want to force a fight as we are taking the objective instead because we will most likely win it due to them being down a player. The best case scenario is winning that fight and then being able to securely do the objective. On the flip side, if you are the team that has the numbers disadvantage, your goal, depending on how impactful the objective is to try to prevent the enemy team from taking the objective or to try to have your jungler take the 50-50. In this example, the enemy has control of the river for Baron. A fight happens where our Jhin and Azir die, but we trade out their Syndra, making it a 3v4. We are at a disadvantage and the enemy team immediately starts Baron. We see that they are on it, and our goal in this scenario is to either try to prevent them from doing it or taking the 50-50. The enemy jungler Zac does not want to take the 50-50, so he forces an engage instead of staying on it, which is the correct play. Unfortunately, they weren't able to catch us and we were able to get away while denying Baron. I specifically say depending on the objective because most dragons and heralds are expendable. This is not true for Baron, Soul, and Elder. These are potentially game-ending buffs and you are going to most of the time not want to give these up. Even at a disadvantage, most of the time you want to try to put up a fight or at least get the enemies off these objectives like in the previous example. If you are at a disadvantage and it's something like 3rd dragon or 2nd herald, it's fine to give it up. When you have no vision anywhere near the objective or you are potentially going to take a 4v5, it's not worth it to fight. If your team has decided that they want to give up an objective, go set up the other side of the map. There's no point of trying to get vision or hovering the area if the enemies are just going to take it. In the mid/late game, when one side of an objective is taken, you'll most likely be fighting for control on the other side. When the enemy is taking the objective, you'll be safe to enter the jungle on the other side because the majority of the enemy team is going to be at the objective that's being taken. Once you do have the area set up and the enemy resets, you can look to pick the enemy as they will try to enter. In this example, we are giving up Herald because they have a little too much control and Darius is bot. After they take it, I start to head over to the bottom side of the map and ward their red side jungle as Dragon is coming up in a minute 30ish. I know I'm safe to walk in because the majority of them just took Herald. If we skip ahead, 4 of their team walks into 5 of us and we win a fight to secure the dragon because I was able to set up the river for us. If your team doesn't have the advantage in position and you have to enter the jungle blind, the correct way of doing this is to enter through a lane with minions or to use a vision cone. You want to push a wave so that the minions can walk forward and then start pinking/sweeping the entrances and warding the bushes. The reason why this is the safest way of walking through a blind jungle is because there are less angles and bushes for the enemies to be in. Once you get the initial ward/vision, you are going to want to leverage that and keep going. If you don't know where the enemy is on the map and your team is not walking with you, you need to wait for them. Never go alone in a blind jungle. In this clip, Baron is coming up in a minute and we have no vision on our blue side or the river. I see their entire team, Jinx, Tahm Kench, and Sejuani are mid while Yone and Jax are top. I'm not afraid to walk into the first bush because I know where everyone is on the map and Master Yi and Xayah are behind me. I use my first ward for the first bush, but I can't enter since Yi went around to hit the vision cone. Once he hit the vision cone, I know that all 3 of them went to our blue buff so I can walk in to get more vision and to sweep our side. I know that there are probably going to be lots of wards as their support just walked through. The pink I place is in a very good position as it denies any potential plays for the enemy from the 2 bushes in river. Now we have retaken a crucial part of our jungle. I use this ward to leverage more vision and to finally get the first ward in the river. It's very crucial to do this slowly and methodically as most supports will get caught during this process. The most important thing to consider while doing this is waiting to get more information of who is where and moving accordingly. In the late game, if objectives aren't up or Baron has been slain, League switches to becoming a sieging and defending game. If your team is sieging, you want to put wards deep into their base while denying any and all vision outside of it. It doesn't make sense to put wards in your jungle as you are walking out to prepare to siege. Your goal is to make it very hard for the enemy to step out and to enable your team to find angles to catch the enemy while hitting turrets and taking all the resources from their jungle. In this example, we are sieging with Baron and I'm only using my wards in their red side jungle and around their base. If I'm sieging tier 2 towers, I always ward the path that connects them so we can see if anyone is rotating. I clear any wards that they place into the space whenever my sweeper is off cooldown. Because they have no information of where we could be in the jungle, we have a lot of angles to look to catch out the enemy. In this next example, we are sieging their tier 3 turrets with Baron and I have very aggressive wards here. Using a pink and then warding over a wall is one of the best ward strategies in catching out the enemy. You'll see this ward set up a lot at the entrances of jungles when a team is looking to pick players rotating. If you are defending, you are going to try to ward the area around your base. It's very similar to how you enter a jungle blind in that you are going to use an initial ward to leverage vision. Make sure to walk with your team and try to slowly retake control. In this example, you can see both sides of the offensive warding and defensive warding. I pink the wall to deny vision and ward over while the other support does the same exact thing. I talk about playing around your most fed player in objectives as 2 separate things, but League is a very fluid game, so these things are true for the entirety of the game. As you are taking objectives, you still need to make sure you are playing around your most fed player. Make sure to fight with them and avoid taking fights without them. This graph was a lot of information, but once you understand the concepts, you will always be proactive in a game. I said this in my early game macro video, but I'll say it again. As you are playing League, you should always have a macro goal in mind. If at any point of the game you are lost or not sure what to do, take the time to look back at the VOD and think about what you should have done. A lot of the scenarios I covered have a lot more intricacies, but I went over a lot of the main ideas. Hopefully after seeing this guide, you will have a lot more direction as you are playing the game. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them in the comments below. I can also answer them when I stream at twitch.tv/showdesk. I usually stream on Monday through Friday, 11:30 AM to about 5 PM PST. Hope to see you guys there.